Good evening, all of you. Am I audible?
Hello, Mehti ji. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible enough.
Enough, sir. Kindly assist me to permit the members in the meeting.
Okay, sure, done.
Actually, I am out of the town today. Or welcome, Kazmi, sir. Just we will start the meeting at 7:15. So Ramkesh, sir, just assist to me.
Yeah, I'm here. No worries. Yes, yes.
Kazmi, sir, just check. Are you able to share the screen or not, sir?
हाँ बोलिए, मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ सर, आपकी आवाज को कौन रोकेगा सर?
नहीं, टेक्नोलॉजी रोक सकती है।
हाँ, टेक्नोलॉजी। सर, वेलकम सर।
Thank you very much.
Just you check. Actually, I am at now in the out of the town. So just you check your screen is possible to share or not?
Share what? Okay.
कहाँ भोजन के लिए जाना है? सामने सामने। Sir, are you able to share your screen or not, sir?
आप देखिए ये।
Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir.
ठीक है।
Actually, we couldn't get any type of technical latching at here. So due to that one, you are co-host also, so you can permit to your non also.
Okay, I'll do that.
Some of your students approaches to us.
Okay.
They approached. Kailash Khandelwal ji is my friend.
Yeah, we had a talk in the day today.
Yes, sir.
He called me here.
And sir, 30th November, you save the date also, sir.
For what?
There is a one get together in Jaipur, sir, on Ajmer Road. Sir.
Okay.
We will update you soon, sir.
But Mehti ji, 30th already we have one scheduled program na for NIPM and.
But we schedule on 17. We will discuss separately for that. Ramkesh sir.
No, but that not yet planned and on 30th we have already occupied. So that's not a good idea. So.
In the evening we have.
No, that already occupied. Please choose other day.
We are not getting that one because 6, 7, 8 I am outside of the in NC meeting.
No, but when we are already occupied, then what is the sense of keeping on that same date?
In the evening, 5:30. Sir.
No, actually that day, full day. In fact, already 2 programs lined up.
Which one 2 programs, sir?
One is NIPM and one is IET as well.
Sir, both that is your thing is that. Because NIPM program will be concluded at 4 o'clock. Sir.
I think that note as yet discussed and then straight away we are declaring dates.
Now we have discussed that one in last meeting. And after that one, we have talked to one, sir. Actually, we are not getting any another one day. We will discuss separately, sir. What was happened for that?
Okay. Hello. Meanwhile, can we do a small introduction of the guests we have joined?
Just, Ramkesh, just. We will start at 7:15. The time is 7:15, sir.
No, I'm checking with the guests, Mr. Susil ji, Mr. Yusuf, Mr. Vivek.
You can take that one. And Veena ma'am is also coming and Vandana is also coming.
Okay, so.
You can start a network talk, sir.
Yes, yes. So for the benefit of all of us,
Yes,
I
sir.
request all three guests, Mr. Susil, Mr. Yusuf, Mr. Vivek, can you please introduce yourself one by one? You can switch on your camera and mic and introduce yourself, please. Yes, Vivek ji, welcome.
Sir, privilege. Ramke sir, you will take 2 or 3 or 5 photographs also.
Okay, okay, sure, sir. Okay. Yes, yes. Yes, Vivek ji, you please unmute yourself.
Good evening, everybody. This is Vivek Bagadia.
Good evening.
I'm basically from Delhi, and I have around 25 years of experience in marketing, sales, and business development. And prior to this, I did my graduation in economics honors and MBA in marketing, and from FMS Ajmer. Azhar Kazmi sir was the founder of FMS Ajmer. Maybe Kazmi sir able to recall me. Right now, I'm running my own business in Delhi. We are doing business consulting for Indian clients as well as foreign clients.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vedu. Good to know you and welcome again in Jaipur chapters event. Great to see you. Yes, please do share your feedback for the betterment of our session as well as for the Okay. Next we have Mr. Yusuf. Welcome, Pawanji.
Thank you, Ramkesh ji.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Miss Sonali, can you please introduce yourself for the benefit of all?
Hi, I'm Sonali and I am an ex-student of Professor Azhar Kazmi.
Oh,
And currently,
Sonali.
currently I'm working in the development sector. Hi, sir.
Okay. Welcome,
I hope
welcome.
I'm visible now. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
you are.
you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, okay. Thank you, ma'am. Have a great session ahead. Okay,
Yes.
now.
Looking forward to it. Yes.
Yes, yes, okay. Show Mr. Yusuf. Can we have your small introduction, please? Meanwhile, let me welcome our secretary, Dr. Vandana ma'am,
Hello everyone.
Dr. Veena ma'am, Rajvi, and Sanjay Kalaji. Welcome to the session.
Should we start the program?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
We are on time, right?
Meena ma'am, should we? Meena ma'am? Welcome to all of you on behalf of I Study Jaipur, Indian Society of Training and Development. As you know very well that I Study is known for the L&D, learning and development, and we are blessed one that we have so many legends in our team, as Professor Kazmi is also at here. So, in the leadership of as a program director, we have started this one Expert Exchange Series, or this one is a third program of us. So, on behalf of Team iStudy, I would like to welcome to all of you, और especially Professor Kazmi. I have seen गुरु और शिष्य की परंपरा क्या होती है ना. आज आपके 2 और 3 शिष्यों ने मुझे दिन में फ़ोन किया तो मुझे बड़ा अच्छा लगा कि मैं सौभाग्यशाली हूँ कि you are with us. So, rest of the things will be shared. The program director of Expert Exchange Series, Dr. Veena K. Arora. She is known for her amazing L&D excellencia in all over the world. So, I would like to invite Dr. Veena K. Arora to introduce the speaker and the concept of expert exchange series. Over to Dr. Veena K.
Thank you so much, Methi ji. And I feel really honored this evening to be in the presence of Professor Kazmi ji. Talking about the concept behind the expert exchange series, we felt that we have so many experts from various fields that we can all gain from each other's knowledge and areas of expertise. So, we have been fortunate that Professor Kazmi has spared his time and very willingly, very in a very humble manner, he agreed, although he didn't have time at that time, but then we scheduled it, and he's worked hard on a very new topic, which I'm sure that we all would benefit from. Now, talking about uh, talking about Kazmi ji, Rajvi. मेरे पास एक यहाँ से छोड़ दो।
Yes, she has just joined, ma'am.
Open it up, audio खोलो, audio खोला नहीं?
Ma'am, your audio is working.
अच्छा सर, ठीक है.
No worries, you can be carry on.
ओके सर, आज तो टेक्निकल स्नैक्स मेरे साथ में हो रहे हैं, तो इसलिए मैं वंदना को कह रही थी, मैंने कहा टेक्निकल एस्पेक्ट संभाल लेना. Anyways, so I shouldn't waste anybody's time. Retired visiting professor of management from King Fahad University of Petroleum and Minerals, Saudi Arabia, and he's a very noted academician and author. When we were doing our MBA, I think 28 years or more back, then he was the dean of our university to which our college was affiliated. And then he is also known for his books, which he has written. He has co-authored 2 books, Strategic Management and Business Responsibility. And besides that, he has received multiple awards for his contributions to management literature. So those who are in the field of management know him so well because he's so renowned. Now, with a PhD in management and an MBA, Dr. Kazmi has held prominent academic roles at several universities across India, Bangladesh, and Malaysia. He has published research papers extensively, and he serves on the editorial boards of several journals. And he has also supervised numerous PhDs and MPhil theses. So he's a fellow of the Salzburg Seminar, Austria, and is actively involved in various professional and management associations. And above all, Dr. Kazmi has been a member of ISTD since 1980, and he has also served as chairman ISTD Lucknow chapter. So welcome, Dr. Kazmi. The stage is all yours.
Okay, first the technical. Can you see me and hear me properly? Veena, can you see me? Hello?
Yes, sir, we can see you.
Can you hear
And we
me?
can, yes, we can hear you
Yes, sir.
clearly.
Okay. Okay. Thank you to all the ISTD members for providing me this opportunity, particularly Dr. Rajesh Methi and Dr. Veena, who asked me to address the expert exchange series. I believe the first one was by Dr. Ramesh Arora, a doyen in the field. So I'm going to fill in very big shoes now. The first thing I would like to share with you is why I chose this topic, and why this idea came to my mind. Obviously, because of the passing away of Ratan Tata last month, much is being written in the media, all sorts of media, papers, as well as YouTube media and television too, about Ratan Tata, his role, his legacy, his contributions, and so on. And of course, as the media goes, there are some sensational issues also, which I've been talking about, how many times he tried to marry and he couldn't, and so on and so forth. So, but we were not very interested in those aspects. I was particularly interested in looking at Ratan Tata's, and not just Ratan Tata, but the Tata Group as a whole, as to what activities or what approach they have taken with respect to training and development, because that's our subject. So we are the training and development fraternity. So I thought the relevant issue would be to look into what this large, diverse business group, which we have been seeing since the last nearly 150 years now, as to what it has been doing, particularly in the field of human resource development. So my idea was to look at the early history of of the Tata Group to see uh, as to what in those times, when all this infrastructure wasn't there, uh, can we have a peep into the early history of Tata Group as to how they planned for human resource development, or rather the larger field of human resource management. Now, as we know, all this information on this slide is mostly known. It was founded by, the Tata Group was founded by Jamsetji Nasurwanji Tata. And he started his career working in his father's banking and trading business. And we know that their family background was Parsi priest from Navsari, a place in Gujarat. So before venturing out on his own, he founded Tata and Sons in 1868. And then we see he sets up a cotton mill in Nagpur, Empress Mill in 1874, and so on. So his vision, as we could deduce retrospectively, is that it was to help India reduce its dependence on foreign-made clothes by manufacturing high-quality textiles domestically. So that was limited purpose in the beginning. It seems so. But gradually he develops ambitious goals, and he wants to set up an iron and steel company, build a power plant, hydroelectric power plant, and also he wants to set up a world-class educational institution. This thing about world class only comes in later, because at that time he just wanted to set up a scientific institution, possibly with the view that at that time, and this point is related to human resource management, that there weren't many technical institutions that could supply manpower. We could say use this older term manpower for the industrial enterprises that were being planned. So he began working on this goal, but many of these would only materialize after his death. And they were taken up by his successors, particularly his son Dorabji, who he played a big role. So Dorabji sets up the Tata Steel in 1907 and Tata Power Company. The Indian Institute of Science comes up in Bangalore in 1909. And by the 1920s, we see the Tata Group had begun diversifying into other sectors like consumer goods, services like insurance and airlines, also a consumer goods company like Tata Oil Mills in 1917. And Tata Airlines came later in 1932 by J.R.D. Tata. 1939, we see Tata Chemicals also as an extension of the group's diversification into chemicals. Now, the question that was there in my mind, why did Jamshedji choose Jharkhand for setting up steel plant, that particular location there. Now, when we think of location, we normally look to the field of operations planning, where location decision is a major strategic long-term decision. And as we know, this location decision is taken keeping in view various factors. So we see geographical factors play a significant role. We see availability of land, raw materials, power resources, or water, labor, markets, transport facilities, and general infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So this steel plant, because we must remember that Tata's, they came from Gujarat. Mostly their industrial activities were based in Bombay, and their first uh, movement outside Bombay was to Nagpur. Nagpur also has a story of its own, which I'll be referring a bit later. But first about this, steel plant. So the steel plant uh, was already, this idea was germinating in the mind of Jamsetji, and he had already seen some articles written by some geologists and also other experts in the field uh, who were who were traversing the other areas in India, particularly in the eastern part of India. So Jamsetji was attracted to this, and his idea was for location was that he wanted to a location where there would be a rail line, a rail junction, and naturally steel making would require the major raw material iron ore and coal, and of course a huge water quantity would be required. So he zeroed in on a place called Kalimati. And particularly on the place called Sakchi. Sakchi, by the way, is now called Jamshedpur. So he focused on these, and there were two rivers in the area, so water availability was ensured. And then the virgin topology was there, so there was adequate scope for future development. Land was available in plenty on lease, and he had already talked to the British administrators about this. And then the major market of Kolkata was also not far. But then the question is, uh, though we look at all these locational factors, but what about the availability of labor and trained personnel? Well, there weren't any, because this place was peopled by tribals mainly. And tribals, of course, had skills, but these skills were not of an industrial nature. They were more of a rustic nature and a pastoral nature, appropriate to their existence. So this industrial skills were absent. So did Jamsetji think about this? He must have thought about it. Availability of labor and trained personnel. So one thing was clear, that if Tatas had to locate their plant there, they would have to invest immensely into the development of human resources. And this gives them an idea that they would have to, and then remember the situation. It was not quite unlike today, where we have a lot of engineering colleges and other colleges and training institutions and so on and so forth. At that time, the availability of skill was extremely limited. So Tata's, they took certain initiatives, HR initiatives. And Jamsetji, when he set up the Empress Mill at Nagpur, 1874, he was he had enough foresight to see that because he had visited London, and he's also visited some other places in England and seen the working conditions that were there. For instance, he had visited Lancaster and seen the uh, cloth mills there and the working conditions there. So he was very conscious of this fact. So he made it very clear to himself and to his planners and to his team that there would be ambient working conditions uh, in the mills. So he arranged for better ventilation in the Empress Mill. air humidifiers. Just imagine at that time, sprinklers for safety, and he also had reduced working hours because the working conditions at that time, especially in these mills, they were very oppressive, in that sense. So Jamsetji, he visualized an accident compensation fund also at that time. And then uh, because of the uh, abundant use of water in manufacturing, the polluted water could cause illness, and therefore he installed water filtration plants, provided sanitary housing, and so on and so forth. He also established a grain depot, a dispensary, an apprenticeship program during those early years, and we are talking about Nagpur then. Nagpur, by the way, was also not a very developed area, and it also had a tribal. It was peopled by mostly tribals and so on. Now, when we come to this Tata Steel, Tata Steel was not established during Jamshedji's time. It was left to Dorabji to set it up later. So Tata Steel also started introducing various labor welfare benefits, which today might seem to be commonplace, but that time they were visionary in the sense, and they were new to the Indian industry. So there were labor welfare benefits, including an 8-hour workday and free medical care, a dedicated welfare department. Welfareism, we see a lot happening in the Tata Group companies right from the beginning. And then paid leave was there, a provident fund for workers, accident compensation, even maternity benefits and whatnot, profit sharing bonuses and retiring gratuity. All these were unheard mostly at that time, where the working conditions in most of the factories and mills, they were oppressive, and the labor was employed nearly, I mean, we had just got out of the slave mentality, but still maintained that. So labor was not very much cared for. But Tata Group, in fact, we see this thing, this idea of welfareism is extremely important in the right from the early history of the Tatas. Now, I just tried to look to the various human resource development initiatives, and I thought that our fraternity would be interested in knowing about these. Of course, more, you know about most of these things, but let me just enlist them. J.N. Tata established, right in the beginning, he established the J.N. Tata Endowment Fund in 1892. And he wanted to help Indian students to go abroad and study. So this was one of the first measures he wanted to see and provide financial supports. And we still have Tata scholarships available for research scholars and students today. Then Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, which is now a premier institution, a research institutions. It was set up right long back in 1909, and they started admitting students in 1911. We also see measures that were taken for vocational training, which we call technical training. So we see Shavak Nanavati Technical Institute come up in 1923. And then Tata Institute of Social Sciences, uh, established in 1936 for social work education. And mind you, these are still the premier institutions. The ISS is a premier institution of India today, in the area of social work, particularly. In 1945, we see Tata Institute of Fundamental Research coming up. But of course, this was set up by J.R.D. Tata and Homi Bhabha. Tata Management Development Center, of which we hear a lot. It came up later in 1954 to impart behavioral and management training. This time, look at 1954. This is the more or less the same uh, time period when at the national level also we see uh, technical education in India coming of age, and we also see the first management institutions and business schools being set up around that time. So then these agencies, they support all subsidiaries. Whatever we are talking about here, these agencies, they support all subsidiaries of the Tata Group. and other industries in the region. So that's their mandate. Now, Vocational Training Institute in Netherlands, they had set up. Uh, uh, it's been there for the last 75 years. It's known as the Academy, and it has been serving Tata Steel in equipping and nurturing the talent it attracts. Now, this idea about setting up an vocational training abroad, why? Because Tatas were conscious that they won't look for uh, skills uh, just within India, but they would look abroad. And this tendency we see, like J.N. Tata and his descendants, they had more close connection with the European countries, particularly France and Britain. And later we see during Ratan Tata's time, we see them collaborating with American institutions. So this international angle also is there so far as their skill development initiatives are concerned. And we see this, an example of that is TCS and Cornell Technology Tech setting up the Tata Innovation Center. This was an initiative led by Ratan Tata. And this came up in 2017 with a $50 million uh, dollars investment by Tata Consultancy Services. So Cornell is the alma mater of Ratan Tata, and he was much interested in contributing to his alma mater, and therefore this took place. So these were some of the major initiatives that were there. I hope I haven't left anything important. You can add it later. Now, the point is, what role does actually HRD plays at Tata Group? For this, I looked to a recent book that's been published. This book is the Tata, the global corporation that built Indian capitalism. And this has been written by Mircea Rayano. Well, I had to make some effort to get the right pronunciation of this author. Mircea is an Anglo-Indian, a associate professor in history, economic history, based at the Maryland University. And he has written this book. He wrote this book and published it in 23, I think, yeah. Now, this book is a study of I haven't read the book as yet, I only had the opportunity to go through some reviews and read some previews of the book, So this is a study of the Tata Group's 150-year-old history, beginning with the cotton and opium trade and expanding to sectors later like hospitality, in hotels like Tata, hotels, aviation like Tata Airlines, and power and chemicals and automobiles and IT and so on and so forth, and a whole range of verticals. Now, Riano, what he does is he analyzes the success as well as resilience, because any business group that is able to survive and do well for uh, a century and a half has to have some inherent strength. So he focuses on these three, of which one will be very important for us. The first is financial connections beyond India, especially with East Asia, China and Japan in the late 19th century, and United Nations in the mid 20th century. So this is first factor, financial connections. Because money was needed, and in the beginning when these industries were being set up, like say for example, this first point, I'll just give an example. Like Jamshedji, he did face a lot of financial problems when he set up the Empress Mills, and then later when he also took over Dharamsi Mills in Bombay, uh, and then renamed it Swadeshi Mills. Uh, all the ideas didn't work out, and they did face financial problems of low profitability, problem of debt, and so on and so forth. So they had to have robust financial connections. The second was control over land, labor, natural resources in remote areas like Jamshedpur in eastern India, where Tata Steel is both an employer and a state-like entity, It's just not an industrial establishment. It's much more than that. In Jamshedpur, it manages, it's a municipal agent and so on and so forth. Now, the third point that Rayanu, he focuses on is of much interest to all of us, Network of experts from around the world. This is one major cause of the success and resilience of the group, So network of experts from around the world, which allowed the group to innovate, experiment, and refine its managerial structure and policies. As you will see, and this is quite an interesting issue, and it made me think quite a lot what made the Tata clan as a whole and the different Tata chairman, not all chairmen were Tatas, but many of them were, So what made this particular business family uh, not remain just a business family, but become a professional group, So in our visualization of Tata Group, there is a difference in perception. If you ask me as a student of business and an observer of management, I would state my perception for, like, say, for example, business groups like Birlas and Bangers a bit differently from what I would perceive the Tata groups to be or other business groups to be, And this reminds me of uh, a thumbnail sketch study, which I did quite early in my career. That was in 1987. So I wrote a monograph on picking up certain chief executives, And that was my first exposure, not really first, but the second exposure uh, to looking at Tata Group as a student, and as an observer. So I picked up Mulgaonkar, Sumat Mulgaonkar, uh, and prepared a thumbnail sketch. Others I took up was Rahul Bajaj, and I took up Vital Malia, the father of Vijay Malia, and so on. So that was my second exposure. My first exposure was as an employee of a Tata company. After I had done my MBA from Podar Institute, Jaipur, the first job I got was as an officer trainee with Tata Exports. So Tata Exports, it offered me a job as an officer trainee, and they placed me at a place called Devas near Indore, where in 1975 they had set up a leather tannery, This was under Tata Exports, which now is called Tata International. So Tata Exports was established as a modern tannery. And I had the opportunity to join there and work for, I couldn't complete a year there, less than a year, nearly 10 months. I worked there, but I had some exposure, of course, a very immature exposure. I was just a fresh MBA student out of the college. Of course, I had some working experience after my engineering from Pilani, but that was in other groups. So here, what I could observe was that it was a very well organized company. Of course, there were some negativities also, which I could observe at close quarters. Like, one thing I didn't like there was too much of corporate politics within the company. Of course, it had nothing to do with the Tata Group, because JRD, who had set up this company, the folklore said that JRD only visited the company once in 1975, and he left delegated rather, the management of the company to the local managers. So this was the thing. But the company was extremely well run, very well organized, and so on and so forth. Now, so this is my antecedent in talking about the Tata Group with a little bit more authority than I would do. So this third point is important for us to consider as training and development fraternal colleagues, the network of experts from around the world, which allowed the group to innovate, experiment, and refine their managerial structures and policies. So Tatas have never hesitated in accessing uh, skills from anywhere. Even within India, they have cast their net quite wide, to absorb skills, and as we know that they have their own Tata Administrative Services, TAS, which at one time was supposed to be as prestigious as the IAS or ICS, So that is what is there. And then we have many of the executives uh, going through the training process at one of these training institutions that Tatas have set up. So what we find is that they they have done quite well, and many of them have moved to the top echelons of the various Tata companies. Now, coming to Ratan Tata, because that's a more recent happening that we see, much has been written about, talked about, especially in the past 2 months, about Ratan Tata's leadership style, because that's extremely important to understand. Now, we know that Ratan Tata took over in 1991. Of course, he graduated in 1962, yeah, 57 to 62. So he graduated and then came and joined Tata Steel as an officer. Uh, he worked in US also for some time, but his skills in management were really honed when he joined the Tata companies. And he joined as an officer on the shop floor of Tata Steel, I think, if I am not wrong. And then he rose up the ranks. So he worked in different companies. Only much later, I think, by 1970s, early 70s, does he take up executive positions. And in 1975, after he had attended the AMP program, Advanced Management Program in Howard, he takes up a higher executive position. So of course, in 1991, he becomes the chairman of Tata Sons. He succeeds JRD. And this marks a significant transformation for the Tata Group. And as observers see, the major change in trajectory of the development of the Tata Group after Ratan Tata takes over is in terms of expansion, expansion, expanding globally and diversifying the businesses. And he also does a lot of restructuring, which is there. Now, under his leadership, the group expands from a primarily India-focused entity, mostly with a history of commodity businesses, into brands. So Tata's work, Ratan Tata's work is mostly seen in the area of more in the area of marketing, branding, positioning, and so on and so forth. And then international expansion, like interest in steel, automobiles, IT services, and so on. So, and we have heard a lot about these takeovers abroad. Now, as a leader, he is often described as a visionary. He is humble. He's a principled leader known for his integrity and ethical approach to business. And this trait he shares with many of his predecessors. Of course, he is never afraid to take bold risks. If he believed it would benefit the company and the nation and so on. Now, after stepping down as chairman, he continues with his work as chairman emeritus and also an advisor to startup and so on, taking up mentorship roles and so on. And we hear quite a lot about his investing in various sectors and about his camaraderie with the younger generation and so on and so forth. Of course, the when we read the history of the Tata Group, we see that it wasn't always a bed of roses or always a red carpet welcome everywhere where they ventured into. So Ratan Tata had his own share of challenges. Uh, one thing that some observers have pointed out is Tata's commitment to social welfare and philanthropy is very well known. But the question is whether it sometimes comes at the expense of shareholder value. And this has been questioned, and there have been discussions within the group, top echelons of the group on this issue. Then the ambitious global expansions, which didn't click always. especially like the Chorus acquisition was much criticized for high debt levels and whether it was done with the proper due diligence and whether strategic risk involved did indeed pay off and so on. Then this experiment with Tata Nano, this of course has been much covered in the media, and it shows the complexity of innovation. Of course, no one would doubt the vision of Ratan Tata in bringing this product to the market, but then there were certain lacuna that like post facto analysis did show that the positioning was not really correct. And the main thing that we do a postmortem analysis is that the product was offered as an inexpensive product that could cater to the middle classes, yet it was seen as a cheap product, So that was the ultimate analysis that we see at that time. So there was some problem with market positioning and customer perception. Then this his public fallout with successor Cyrus Mistry, this created much bad blood and also a media criticism about even corporate governance at the Tata Group was under the limelight during this. So it drew attention, raising questions on succession planning and leadership culture within the Tata Group and so on and so forth. So these were the challenges which have been much talked about. But I'm not going to dwell much on these. What I am more interested in whether Ratan Tata during his tenure, uh, a pretty long, more than 2 decades of leadership he gave to the Tata Group. What are the implications of Ratan Tata's leadership style and strategic decisions on human resource management? Now, the first thing that we'll see is trust and ethics. So this trust and ethics have been major factors in creating and maintaining the Tata brand. And this is much talked about in literature as well as media and so on and so forth. So Ratan Tata's strategic decisions, they leverage trust. Of course, it leveraged trust for expanding internationally and also restructuring nationally. So trust and ethics play even a major role in attracting employees and retaining them and so on and so forth. I still remember when I got a job with Tata Exports after my MBA. Well, I was fated by my classmates. They thought that I had got a job because of Tata's reputation, and I could see there, Indore and Devas area also. We went about. We were seen as uh, belonging to, and we were seen as employees working in a company which had a great reputation and so on. The second idea is, as I have mentioned earlier also, this idea of welfareism and employee welfare. Now, this employee welfare is a cornerstone of Tata Group's HR strategy. And Ratan Tata continued with this strategy and made people first. So Tata Group claims people first policies. So they were continued during his tenure. And these include employee well-being, which is a later concept, and then continuous learning and growth and cultivating a positive, supportive work culture. Now, much can be said about this supportive work culture and how it comes about. But more about it possibly later. Now, a specific example that I would like to quote about Ratan Tata's focus on empowering people. He was known as a person who would trust people and would delegate easily and delegate willingly and focus on empowering people around him to innovate and make decisions like launching by the Tata Group of the Tata Innovesta initiative. It is one initiative that is credited to him. So this is an internal innovation recognition program that celebrates employee-driven ideas and contributions. So remember, we are talking about something that was absent in the early history of the Tatas. There we see more a focus on development of basic skills, provision of welfare measures, supporting employees, and like building up skills right from the bottom. That was the challenge then. Now the challenge is of a much different type. And I think Tata Group responds to that in terms of like an example of innovation. So the legacy of Ratan Tata we see is even in retirement, and that we visualize the memory of Ratan Tata as inspiring and influencing Indian business through investments in startups and emerging sectors and so on. And we also see his legacy as of integrity, bold vision, and a unique blend of business acumen with social responsibility, setting a high benchmark for entrepreneurs and so on. As I was researching for my presentations and so on, I was struck by the idea about how the Tata groups have managed their relationship with the governments at different times. Because a group as resilient as Tata's, which has been there for 150 years, has seen different types of people at the helm of affairs nationally and so on. At one time, they had Britishers, so they had good relations with the Britishers too. And then came the independence movement. Tata had good relations with, not as good as some other business groups like the Jamnalal Bajaj, for example, but JRD later, like 19 early 50s, had good working relationship with the government and so on. Even with the ruling parties like the Congress late earlier and the BJP now, Tatas have had a very cordial and amiable relationship and so on. So this is what is there. But one thing that we should notice is that while having these relationships, they maintain a certain distance, and a certain dignity, and which has to be noted in that. Like an example can be seen, like when this Cyrus Mystery uh, episode was being discussed in the media, uh, and Ratan Tata was being questioned about why this has happened. Tata did, in some interviews, he did say that, well, we developed cold feet after having nominated Cyrus as the successor, because what he was trying to do was he was trying to take certain strategic decisions that would lead the Tata Group into fields, like, say, for example, infrastructure, where there would be a possibility of the dilution of the basic principles that the group stands for, especially the ethical principles that the group stands for. So this shows that they were very conscious about their reputation, their good name, their standing in the society, and so on and so forth. So this is what we did, and I think some of us could look into these issues in much greater detail than I have been able to. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. And if there are questions or discussion or some comments, I think they are most welcome.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Kazmi, for that, wonderful intensive session based on so much of research and reading which you've done, and also your personal experience having worked for one of the Tata Group companies. So I'm sure everyone has learned something new from your presentation today, from your session today, and excellent time management. You had said 45 minutes, and you started at 7:14 and you finished exactly at 8 o'clock. So, hats off to you. Now, if anyone has any questions, please ask Professor Kazmi. You have the opportunity of an expert there who can answer. Okay, sir, I have received a question from Mr. Tejas Kumar, who says that since he's an entrepreneur, he has some budding ideas about business. What are the three important aspects that you would recommend for a budding business, for a new startup, which would help it become very successful and scale up well?
I think for entrepreneurial success, I think that these factors are pretty well known. Like risk-taking ability is one of the the most important factor. Risk-taking ability in the sense that because venturing into unknown fields, like take the example of Jamshedji Nusarwanji, thinking of setting up a mill in Nagpur, because all their business operations are in Bombay. There are already textile mills in Bombay. They have good working relationship with people in Bombay. Yet they had the foresight to go to another location where they had to start on afresh. This is the risk-taking ability, and also the ability. Second one, Tejas, would be the ability to face the adversities that come with risk-taking. So there would certainly be downturns, and of course upturns and so on and so forth. So it's never a straight path, for entrepreneurship. So second is the ability to be resilient, and of course the third is the ability to garner resources, so this garnering resources becomes extremely important, the ability to raise finances, for example, or the ability to attract skills and retain them and so on. So these three things I would say: risk-taking ability, the ability for resilience, face of downturns, and the third is to garner resources that immediately come to the mind. Yeah.
Uh, can I speak, Professor Kazmi?
Sure, Pawanji, please.
It is indeed a pleasure to hear you after so many years. You have been away from us for near about 2 decades. So, nevertheless, it was pleasure to see all of the friends along with your good lecturing. The Tata had been very famous about the succession planning, and except that of the Cyrus Mistri's case study, we don't type of turmoil as it happens in the Indian business houses and especially in the family-owned businesses. But here we found that succession planning had been wonderful. So, what are the narratives which can be generated in the succession planning of the Tata Group?
Yeah, so succession planning is, I completely agree with you, except for this one episode. The others seem to be successful, but we really don't know the inside stories. But if you see the early histories, I mean, they were not without problems, So, like J.N. Tata had laid down the framework, and he was quite a visionary in the sense that at some places it's mentioned that he even visualized what Jamshedpur would be like. Of course, Jamshedpur was not there at that. It was a place called, I forgot the name. I think I did take the name in the beginning. Yeah, yeah, Kalimati and so on. So that place, uh, Jamshedji visualized as a place which would have expansive roads with tree-lined avenues and proper municipal facilities and sewerage systems and so on and so forth. So this visualization is there, and they pass it on to their successors in that sense. And Dorabji, he took it up in right earnest. And he also set up a trust, Dorabji Trust, which was going to fund all these activities and so on. So Tatas are not just industrialists in that sense, They're also municipal planners, in that sense. They're also skill developers in that sense. They are also visionaries in that sense. Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, it doesn't benefit only the Tata Group. They set it up for the purpose of national benefit, So, and it does benefit us as one of the premier institutions then. So this succession planning is not merely a matter of handing over a baton from one person to the other. So what Dr. Pawan, what I would say is it's more a transfer of values, which go from one generation to the other. Of course, I could criticize as an academic, we would have a critical view of that. because most of these were from the family or from close families, And it's only later that we see the Tatas cast a wider net, like the recent appointees at the top level. We see quite a few coming from outside the family networks, not just the family. But in this sense, the Parivarvad that we see in Tata is more a sense of transfer of values that would be preferable values, preferable values, particularly related to the ethical systems that the Tatas would like to have. So an important, rather a very important ingredient in succession planning was not just uh, passing on the baton. Okay, now I am the MD, you become the ND next month. It's not like that, It's and then, as we see in the case of Ratan Tata doesn't come with a degree from Cornell and he becomes the managing director of some company. No, he goes through the run, he goes through he starts from the bottom and he starts working as an officer on the shop floor and so on. So this is the way how the successors are.
Yes.
And JRD was very clear. He had pinpointed Ratan as his successor, because he was already mentoring him and planning for him. So, Pawanji, I would place much emphasis on the transfer of value systems as a
Yes.
component of succession planning, which is there.
Yes, you are right, sir. Basically, it is the value orientation of the individuals or the group of individuals, or we
Yeah,
can call it the family. It is not simply transferring the position from father to son. It is the transfer of the values which will progress in terms of the business prosperity.
yeah,
Thank
exactly. Yeah.
Anyone else wants to ask any questions
Yeah,
for
ma'am, I
Professor
have a
Kazmi? We
question.
can take one or two max.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, I have a question. This is Sonali. And
Sure, go ahead.
as as we are talking of the human resources over here, just want to understand sir's
you.
take or the esteemed gentleman's take over here, that how do we relate organization culture and the human resource planning, and what is the main point which makes an organization successful actually? Because as I have been a student of Tata Institute of Social Sciences as well in the later years, and I have realized that the culture makes a very big difference as far as human resource planning is concerned. So I just want to understand about that.
First of all, good to see you, Sonali, here.
Thank you, sir.
The
Thank
last
you.
I must have seen you in the classroom, at
Yes,
Ajmer,
yes,
yeah, at the University at Ajmer. So that's
yes,
quite a perceptive observation, Sonali, you have, this relationship between organizational or corporate culture with human resource planning. More or less, the same point is relevant here too. Like I was answering to Dr. Pawan's query, more or less the
yes.
same logic works here too, Like in the case of human resource planning, uh, corporate culture becomes a major shaping instrument uh, for human resource development, So it's not, of course, technical skills are there, administrative skills are there, and so on and so forth. But when it is undergirded by a strong system of corporate culture, and as we know, corporate culture is about shared values.
Mm,
Our organizational culture is about shared values. So, and this shared values, they are part and parcel of Tata company's business environment. Like even as an amateur officer trainee at Tata Exports, I could see that there was a sense of ownership, a sense of pride among the employees of belonging to the Tata company or working for the Tata company. So that sense of belongingness, the sense of pride in being an employee, and so on and so forth. This, in fact, uh, creates a very ambient sort of foundation for the development of technical skills or administrative skills and so on and so forth. So this is quite intimately connected. And I in fact appreciate your observation that this component of you corporate culture, we know Sonali very well that corporate culture is a very strong element in companies and organizations. It could support or it could hinder anything. So powerful. So in this case, as we see, corporate culture supports human resource planning as a component of human resource planning. And I'm sure if you see the Tata Group companies' websites, of course, the websites are more PR thing, but if you see some sense behind what they are saying, they would always be talking about their culture, corporate culture, ethical values, ethical systems, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So that's it.
Thank you, sir. Why I raised this question? There is a very small incident which
Okay.
happened, or incidents which I recall, that I had the opportunity to meet one of the ex-chairman of Tata Trust. And the thing which he told me still rings well in my mind, that you should, as part of an organization, be a good human resource, but you should also fear from the humans. So that was my point to
Uh,
bring into this
uh,
question. Yeah.
that reminds me of an episode with JRD Tata. JRD, I don't remember the exact details, but JRD once he lost his pen. He used to keep a pen. He lost his pen. So I don't recall who was the person, but this person was one of the top managers in the company. So he came to know Taklatwala or some. Anyway, the name is not important. This person came to know that JRD lost his pen. So next time JRD was visiting the company, he presented JRD with a pen. And the same type of pen that JRD, because JRD had few possessions. He was quite parsimonious in his personal life, and
Mm.
so were many of the Tatas. So he was quite attached to his pen. So he was quite surprised, in fact, happily, pleasantly surprised to find the same pen. But then he took it, appreciated it, and then he returned it. And the manager who was presenting it, he was aghast. JRD, why this? JRD said, you see, this would break my principle of taking anything from my own officers, who work under my supervision. So I won't break my own rule. So I like this pen. I appreciate your sentiments, but please keep it. I won't take it. Small thing.
Yes.
So
Thank you, sir.
So Mr. Sanjay Kalla has the last question which we can take today if you would like to answer. Mr. Kalla?
I had already put in the chat box, but now you have asked. So, Professor Kazmi, very insightful session. It is always wonderful to learn about the Tatas, and a lot of literature is already here. In the modern perspective, I would like to know what separates as a business ideology or philosophy in the big business houses in India, like Tata's, Ambani's, Birla's, Adani's, and others. And what sets Tata's apart?
yeah, yeah, good observation. Uh, Sanjay ji, I'm sorry I didn't see your question in the chat because I didn't have the opportunity to see the chat. I'll see them later. Now your observation is good. In the sense that you see every business group, and so every corporate, or every corporate entity is different, in that sense. Like even in the Tata Group, the entities are different. Companies are different. Tata Sky would be different from Tata Elxsi and Tata Power and Tata Oil Company and so on. So they would be different. So there would be internal differences. And of course, the business group differences would also be there. Uh, And as I said, as observers of these business groups, we as students, as observers, as learners, and even as thinkers and analyzers, we do have a perception, like you might have a perception of the Birlas as a business group. or the Ambanis as a business group and so on. Like if you ask me, what is your perception of Ambani's as a group? Well, I would say highly successful business group, especially the senior Ambani, Dhirubhai. And but then if you talk about other aspects, well, they would be deficient in ethical values, certainly, because we see many of the episodes there, where they are manipulating and so on. Or if you look at the Birlas, Birlas was accused in the 1960s and 70s of misusing the managing agency system first, and second, of cornering licenses and so on and so forth, and thereby preempting competition and so on. So naturally, these do not reflect well on the business group. But when we look at Tata Group as such, in comparison to the other business groups uh, we see them as standing for certain values. And as I made an observation earlier also, I don't know whether you noticed it or not, Sanjay ji, that I made a comment that they had good relationships with the powers that be at any point of time during these 150 years. But they had this relationship with a certain sense of dignity, like when JRD when Tata Air was taken over by the government and made into Air India, naturally JRD wasn't happy about it. And he made his unhappiness very evident. Yet, the government at that time, Nehru was quite appreciative of Tata in many ways, and he did involve JRD in as advisor on committees and so on and so forth. So we see them having amicable relationships with the government, yet maintaining a distance. Maintaining an honorable distance, knowing fully well that going near the power centers or going near too much would be detrimental to their sense of ethical values and so on. So this sense of their own reputation, their own standing in society, and then the brand Tata's. Like Ratan Tata's major emphasis, as I said, was on marketing, branding, positioning, and so on. So this was the time when they realized that they had built up a lot of reputation over the years, and it was time that they, I won't say exploit, but I think stand on the brand name Tata, the corporate brand name Tata, rather than individual product brand names. So this is what is significant about this business group.
Thank you so much, Professor Kazmi. And over to you, Dr. Vanna. Dr. Vanna, the Honorary Secretary, are you there with us? Okay, so as per the itinerary.
Hina ma'am. Hina ma'am. Hello.
Vanna ma'am had to extend the vote of thanks, but I believe there might be some technical snags. So on behalf of ISTD National Council, of which I'm a member, and the ISTD Jaipur chapter, which has initiated this expert exchange series, on behalf of the chairman, Dr. Methi Vannaji, and also on behalf of Tulsi Giri, I really extend a lot of thanks to Professor Kazmi and for all his ex-students and the continuous learners who have joined in today. And I'm sure that this session has been very insightful, very beneficial for them as well, just like it has been for me. So, sir, thank you so much for all the effort that you've taken. And we really appreciate and we extend our gratitude towards you. Thank you so much, sir.